Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying!
Yes, guys, and welcome back to the Cannon Podcast. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you are all good. I'm with my boy James again, and we've just done another rewatch.
We're top of the league for 2 weeks. Of course they're good.
Do you know how good it
everyone is in
feels?
great spirits now.
How good does it feel? Like this second international break, we don't have the discourse and the attention. It's all about Liverpool, and we can just chill. The only discourse you're getting online is the Gyökeres and Havertz fan debates and battles. But I'll take that. I'll take that for sure.
Yeah, let them carry on. If we're top of the league, I don't care as much.
Same, mate. But no, it was brilliant. It was brilliant to do the first half. We saw a lot of interesting things. I feel James felt vindicated on his initial feeling about the game, and we spotted a lot of interesting things. And like we always say, if you want to be able to catch these rewatches, it's a regular sort of show that we're doing consistently every single week. You can access it via the link below in the description. You can become a Patreon or YouTube member. Free trial, 14-day free trial, and you get access to the Discord server, you get access to the rewatches, Scouted, ad-free main podcast, data podcast that will soon be here as well. If you wanted to become a director, you get other additional features of the monthly director's phone-in that we do, in which we talk to you guys. We've got George's Tactical Corner there as well. So a lot of content to get your teeth stuck into. So let's go straight into it with the West Ham first half rewatch. And you tell me, James, one thing that you loved.
So I'm excited about this because we're going to do a point each, and I think we've got 2 points I'm really excited about talking about. Now, I always say this, apology to Rohan and to anyone who watched on Patreon, because I'm probably sound like a bit of a broken record here, but I really think there was a big difference when Zubimendi came on. And I want to be careful what I say here. I don't think it's we were bad with Ødegaard, we were better with Zubimendi. I think this is more a balance thing. I think it's actually less to do with the player. Though I thought Zubimendi was brilliant, I think it's almost less to do with the player and more to do with the roles in the team. Now, I just want to read something out that I read on a live stream I did analysing this game on the Goonverse. In that first 30 minutes, because Ødegaard came off in the 29th minute, Arsenal had 7 shots, 148 completed passes, 29 in the attacking third with 3 take-ons. The numbers compared, we had 10 shots between minutes 29 and 60. So I've taken the first 30 and the 30 following that. So we had 10 shots in the following 30 minutes compared to 7 in the first 30. We completed 227 passes compared to 148. So that's about 80 more. We had 78 passes in the attacking third. That is way higher than the 29 in the attacking third. And 10 take-ons, which is 7 better than the 3 take-ons in the first 30 minutes. So there were numbers that shot up when you compare the next 30 minutes to the first 30 minutes. And the reason I bring that up is to say Zubimendi was great. We're going to go through some data you guys have on him. You guys have done some amazing work on production with this. I'm excited to look into that. While Zubimendi was great, I really feel that the balance of Rice as the 6 with Ødegaard and Eze meant Ødegaard was dropping deep. That forced Rice at times to drift left, but also he knew that wasn't his role. Calafiori was inverting at times, but I don't think that came so naturally to him, although he was given a lot of freedom and fluidity. I don't want to say it didn't come naturally to him. I don't think it came naturally to the team when Eze as well was high in that left pocket, and Trossard likes to drop in as well. So if I had 3-4 players that were sort of not quite getting in each other's way, but not quite sure, if you go here, then should I go here or whatever? The minute Zubimendi came on and Eze went to the right 8 or 10 or whatever, I felt you had that box midfield much more reassured in what it was trying to do, and the rotation between Rice, Trossard and Calafiori on the left were much better. And that's why I think our performance went up in the next 30 minutes, because the balance was so much better. And instead of Rice drifting to the right 8, trying to thread the ball to Ødegaard, who was floating anyway, you got the goal from Zubimendi holding a very natural position with Eze making a very natural run, and then we get the goal. So Zubimendi was great. I take nothing from him. He was brilliant. But I actually think it was more to do with the readdressing the system and the roles in the team when he came on.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really interesting because we kind of spoke about it a lot more in depth in the in the video, where for me it was kind of like I thought Arsenal were fine in the first 30 minutes, but then you could sense that they went up another level when Zubimendi came in. And when we look at Arsenal traditionally under Mikel, it kind of does make sense in terms of this is a team, when we're talking about how that midfield is manufactured, it is more two central midfielders, as opposed to one out-and-out central midfielder. And I think with Zubimendi, he was fantastic. And what I do want to stress, and I said this on the main pod as well, is I think we should be really encouraged, because I know a lot of people wanted Mikel to go with two out-and-out creative players between the lines. The intentions of the lineup showed that. Mikel recognised that this is a West Ham team that are not going to try and play through us. They're going to go a lot more long, be with direct balls, and they're going to effectively look to win the loose ball game, I like to call it, which is basically after the first ball, the second ball, there eventually is going to be the ball, and it's either you win it or the opposition wins it, and whoever wins it will then dictate the next move. And I felt initially Mikel believed with Rice and that back line, we would be able to manage that situation. And then it's about Eze and Ødegaard being able to help us unlock the door, adding that extra creative player. But what Mikel did say afterwards, and his inclusion of Zubimendi and why he went for him, and naturally, I think, certainly for me in the stadium, I felt like, well, we've seen against Forest and Leeds when Ødegaard has came off, it's been Waneri to come on. But he brought on Zubimendi, and he said, with the way that West Ham acted and the way that they were matching our midfield, the spaces that we could create with Zubimendi, he thought was better. And then he goes on to say, with West Ham, because they had no intention to play, and I felt Mikel read that immediately with the lineup, he mentioned how, they're only going to create via the second ball, the loose ball, and Zubimendi gives you extra assurance to that. And I think that's where I kind of want to go to with Zubimendi and his performance. So I want to share you some of the numbers behind it, if you can see that.
Yeah, there they are.
You've got a really nice graphic from @Honesto_analyst, and it looks at Zubimendi and his performance. So you can see in terms of passes completed, 68 out of 72, giving him a completion of 94.44%. Look at the number of progressive passes, 13. And I think, we spoke about it in the rewatch. You mentioned how, sustaining pressure, and we kind of pinned West Ham in a lot better after his inclusion. And you can see the number of progressive passes that illustrates that, and the key passes being one. So a really good performance. And you got the ball recoveries as well, 3 tackles, 1 3 out of 5. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was a really good performance from Zubimendi. And actually, the goal that we scored, we saw everything about Zubimendi in action. He won the second ball, then he fills the space to receive, and it's the first time pass, and it's quality, isn't it, really?
Completely agree with you. And you know what? Interesting. We talk about sort of being happy that Arsenal had 2 creators in the team, but Zubimendi is a creator.
Yes.
He's just... Because I get what you're saying. We're talking 2 advanced 8s or 2 10s or whatever. But he himself is someone who makes things happen. And that's all I ask of this midfield. You can have all the dual winners. You can have them right 8, left 8, 6, wherever you want. But you need to have 2 players in central midfield that are able to play the kind of passes Zubimendi played. And he was the one that unlocked the opposition. And the reason you need that is because you're removing creative burden all on one player. And I think Ødegaard is going to thrive from the fact that he knows other players can pick those passes. And it's why I find the Norgard signing a little strange, because I don't really see how he comes in and replicates what Zubimendi does. But that's where you got creativity in other areas. So if Norgard ever has to start as the 6, then you probably want to go for an Ødegaard and an Eze, or an Ødegaard and a Waneri, or an Eze and a Waneri, because you've got to have that creative burden shared amongst players. So but Arsenal's midfield options are sensational. The best I've seen at the Emirates. I mean, when you look at the defensive midfielders too, and the overall package, maybe. I don't want to disrespect Fabregas, Rosicky, Hleb, Flamini, those
Nasri,
players, DRB. There were some phenomenal technicians. And I don't think the players we've got now have got to the level of a Cesc Fabregas, I'll say that. However, in terms of the overall roundedness of profiles and ability for the midfield to do lots of different things, it's definitely the best collective group I've seen at the Emirates, and with that comes pressure to win titles. So I'm glad we talked about Zubimendi. I think he thoroughly deserved a good mention and some analysis on how he did what he did.
100%. I think it's kind of like the impact that Zubimendi had individually, but then it's the ripple effect, and we speak a lot about that in the video. And then, speaking of like completeness, I mean, our backline is fantastic, and one player that I wanted to really highlight, and we both spoke about him a lot in depth, as Timber. And for me, he's been my player of the season so far. When we're talking about 10 games in, who I think has been the standout, certainly a lot of nominees. We spoke a lot about Calafiori and his impact. Zubimendi, of course, I think Rice had a really underrated start to the season as well. But I think Timber has been brilliant. And actually in this game, one of the big things that I felt was really great to see about Timber was what he was doing inside in the half spaces higher up. And we saw many instances in which he's the one there providing that thrust inside. A lot of situations where he's getting cutbacks in, a couple of dangerous shots as well. He wins the penalty as well. And for me, it's the ripple effect that he had on Saka. And we spoke about it where when you look at West Ham and they're defending in a nominal 4-4-2 block, right? So there's the talk about, our wingers being doubled up on. So let's think, and you picture it in your head, who is doing the role of doubling up on our wingers. So it's the fullback, naturally, but then it's the winger who's tracking back. So they are the 2v1 on our winger. But then if we can look at how we can kind of stop that from happening and have more 1v1s for Saka, it's about who you put higher up. And Timber going inside and higher, that meant that Somerville, who was the West Ham left winger, had to track Timber. And what that meant is Saka is then 1v1 against Youth. And we saw it time and time again, the space is there for Saka to attack. So I think there's been a lot of discourse on, our wingers getting a lot of space. And in this game in particular, I think Timber's role and his ability to be really direct, higher up the pitch, going inside, that gave Saka a lot of freedom, 1v1 against Youth, and we know what Saka can do 1v1. And I thought Timber individually was fantastic. And, we spotted it in the build-up to the penalty that Timber won, where the one time in which Somerville is actually not tracking him and he stays a little bit higher, he's kind of not doing, he's in between of pressing Zubimendi, who's a little bit deeper, but then also not there to support Timber deeper. That meant that Juve was overloaded 2v1, and then Juve eventually gives the penalty away. But yeah, I thought Timber was fantastic.
I can't add much more to that. I think you've broken it down brilliantly, but I think ultimately Arsenal were finding solutions to how do you find space in what is a very compact opposition, and West Ham were compact, but they did that by rotating where Ødegaard, Calafiori, Rice were picking up the balls, where Trossard and Saka were standing, and the kind of runs that Calafiori and Timber were willing to make going forward. We talk about the underlap, right? When you are really stretching the pitch, because overlap is really obvious. The ball comes to your winger and there's a charging run from someone who's come on the blind side of the winger. The underlap, we're talking about that space that is vacated because you stretch the back four so much. Yeah. Now, also, I actually think, I'll be honest, I thought under Arteta we were going to be better at this. From the school of Pep, City did it time and time and time again. No one seemed to have an answer for it. I thought we were going to do this more often. But not only did we not, we never seemed too competent at it. We also played players on the wrong foot. So we played Ødegaard in the right half space. So that doesn't come too naturally to him. I remember one time Tomiyasu scored on the final day against Everton. That came from an underlap from Ødegaard, but he doesn't do it that often. But in this game, I can point out Saka when he makes an underlap from an Ødegaard pass and it's cut across goal. Eze for the actual goal. Timber, a couple underlaps where he gets shots away and then cuts it into the box. Marino definitely did it in the second half. So that's four players who, through rotation and just understanding of the role and the spaces to exploit, attack that space between fullback and centre-back brilliantly. Now, I do think two things. I do think you kind of need the opposition to allow you to do that. I think West Ham defended it appallingly. And then I also think you need a striker like Gyökeres who occupies enough players for them to go, let them have it because we need to defend this. You can't defend everything at all times, not for 90 minutes. And on what you're saying about Timber, who was brilliant, I think the underlap and the spaces we're exploiting were like a real strength of Arsenal's play against West Ham. And I hope we see that more throughout the season because I think it's a great way to break teams down who are really compact and difficult in the low block in tight games and who have good players to try to do that. So, it was really good. And Timber was brilliant.
Absolutely. And I think, we spoke about how Timber, if there's one thing he needs to add in terms of consistency, is his overall play in the final third. We can nitpick on specific aspects, but I'd say as a collective, Timber's so good in terms of in the press, in terms of deeper, his defending, and he's no slouch going forward. But we're talking about the upper echelon of fullbacks in the attacking sense. That's where we want Timber to go to, and I thought he was really good. But yeah, those were our two players that we felt had a profound impact on our win. But yeah, it was really good to do. And like I said, if you guys did want to access the rewatch, you can do so by following the link below to become a Patreon or YouTube member. Nothing else for me to add. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm really enjoying these. I'm learning a lot. So big thanks for having me again.
Nice one. That is brilliant. Brilliant to have you. And hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. And nothing else for me to say other than thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. This was one kind of queue the ladies thoroughly enjoyed.
Electrifying. Inspiration.